The sun had already begun to sink behind the ragged mountains when the desert turned to fire and dust, a place where echoes carried whispers of the dead and every breath felt like it belonged to someone else. The desert didn't forgive, it didn't wait, and on that long dying day, the sound of hooves broke through the stillness, a small, desperate rhythm of survival. A Mescalero Apache woman ran for her life, her bare feet bleeding against the stones, her heart pounding harder than the wind itself. Behind her, men hunted, soldiers who had once sworn to uphold the law but now served vengeance, chasing what they believed to be a savage, a trophy of war. She stumbled through dry brush and into the fading light, knowing every shadow could hide her death. The world had taken everything from her, her people, her home, her freedom, and all that was left was the burning instinct to live one more night. The canyon ahead was her last hope. She slid down the rocks, dust spilling around her like smoke. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she pressed herself into the shadows, trying to become one with the land. The hunters were close. Their voices echoed, harsh, cruel laughter mixing with the clatter of reins. They carried torches that cut through the dark like fiery snakes. She clenched her jaw, her trembling hand gripping the edge of a broken spear she'd found among her dead kin. She was ready to die, but not to be taken. Then she heard it, a faint sound beyond the ridge, different from the voices of her pursuers. A horse snorting softly, boots crunching slow on gravel, and a low voice muttering something to the night. She peered through the cactus and saw him, a lone man in a tattered blue uniform, his head pulled low, his rifle slung carelessly across his shoulder. He wasn't one of them. His face was carved by pain, his eyes distant, the look of someone who'd seen too much war and found no reason left to fight. He moved like a ghost, half-starved, half-lost, carrying the kind of silence only soldiers who've deserted their orders know. The woman froze. For a moment, she thought to stay hidden, but the hunters were too close. She stepped into the open, weak but defiant, her spear raised. The soldier spun, his rifle rising instinctively, his eyes locking with hers. For a heartbeat, time stopped, two souls from opposite worlds, both broken by the same land. The shouts came closer. The soldier's hand trembled. He could have shot her, instead, he lowered his rifle. "This way," he muttered, motioning toward a dry ravine. She hesitated, but something in his voice wasn't command, it was mercy. Without a word, she followed. They moved through the darkness like hunted shadows, every step heavy with fear and dust. When they reached the shelter of the rocks, he glanced back toward the flickering torches chasing the night. "They're after you," he whispered. She didn't answer. Her silence was its own story. He looked away, guilt carving deep lines into his face. "I've seen what they do. I'm not part of it anymore." His words carried a bitterness that only the damned could speak. As the night deepened, the wind howled through the canyons like mourning spirits. The woman crouched near a dying fire while the soldier sat across, staring into the embers. He handed her a piece of dried bread. She hesitated, then took it, eating in silence. For the first time in years, the soldier spoke more than to his own ghosts. "Name's not important," he said quietly. "Used to wear the same colors as them. Thought I was fighting for justice. Turns out, I was just fighting orders." His voice cracked. "I left when they started burning villages." The woman's eyes flickered, she didn't need to understand every word to feel the weight of what he said. He looked at her again. "You running from them?" She nodded once. "Then you're not alone anymore," he said. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, not trust, not yet, but recognition. The hunted and the haunted, bound by survival. The next morning, the desert lay cold and silver beneath the dawn. The soldier led her north, where the land broke into ravines and the scent of rain lingered faintly. They traveled mostly in silence, communicating through gestures, instincts, and the shared rhythm of fear. But as the sun rose high and cruel, they saw smoke on the horizon, soldiers. The same men, relentless, their vengeance driving them like wolves. The soldier cursed under his breath. "They won't stop," he said. "They never do." They veered into the hills, climbing over stones sharp as knives. By noon, the heat became unbearable. The woman stumbled, her vision blurring. The soldier caught her before she fell, his hand firm yet gentle. "Easy now," he murmured. "We'll make it." He found a shallow cave tucked behind a wall of brush, and they took refuge there. As he poured the last of his canteen into her hands, he smiled faintly. Didn't think I'd ever care to save anyone again. She looked at him, through exhaustion, through mistrust, and in her eyes, he saw something he hadn't felt since the war ended: purpose. That night, as the fire flickered low, she began to hum, a low, mournful melody that drifted through the cave like the desert wind itself. The soldier listened, eyes closed, and the melody wrapped around him like a confession. That song, he whispered. It sounds like forgiveness. She said nothing, but her eyes told him he was right. Dawn came with gunfire. The soldiers had found their trail. Bullets tore through the rocks as dust exploded around them. The soldier grabbed his rifle. "Run," he shouted. She refused. Instead, she picked up her broken spear, standing beside him. Together they fought, not as enemies, not as prey and predator, but as two spirits who refused to die without meaning. The soldier fired until the rifle clicked empty. Then he fought with his fists, his rage and guilt colliding with the sound of death. The woman moved like the desert wind, swift, silent, relentless. When the smoke cleared, 3 soldiers lay still, and the rest fled back into the horizon, their courage burned away by the heat and the blood. The soldier sank to his knees, trembling, staring at the bodies. "They won't stop," he said again, quieter this time. She placed a hand on his shoulder, not in comfort, but in acknowledgement. The hunted woman had found her freedom, and the deserted soldier had found redemption in saving her. As the sun bled across the desert sky, they walked toward the mountains, 2 silhouettes fading into the light, the world behind them nothing but dust and ghosts. Somewhere in that burning silence, the soldier spoke softly, almost to himself. "Maybe this land can forgive us after all." The woman turned her face to the wind and nodded. The horizon swallowed them whole, and the story of the hunted and the deserter became one of those whispered legends that drifted through campfires for generations, of how mercy was born in a place where none should exist. And to everyone watching, remember this: in a world that often hunts what it does not understand, kindness is the bravest rebellion. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, because every tale I tell is a piece of the Wild West that still lives, waiting for you to ride with it again. The desert night had turned cold by the time they reached the foothills. The soldier's wounds ached, and the woman's steps grew slower, but neither spoke of stopping. Silence was safer than sound. The stars above them flickered like ancient eyes, watching 2 broken souls chase a freedom the world never meant for them. At dawn, smoke rose again in the distance, another patrol. The soldier clenched his jaw. "They're spreading out," he muttered. "They want us cornered." She looked toward the mountains and pointed, her meaning clear: higher ground. They climbed through jagged stone and dry wind until the earth fell away beneath them. From there, the desert stretched like an ocean of gold and death. The soldier looked at her, his breath ragged. "If we make it across that, no one will follow." She nodded. There was no fear left, only the stubborn will to keep breathing. As they moved, he caught her when she stumbled again, his hand steady. "You saved me back there," he said softly. "Guess we're even now." She met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw something more than survival, something like trust. But peace in the Wild West never lasted long. The sound of a rifle cracked through the air. The soldier turned, firing back, shielding her as bullets tore into the sand. They ran through the canyon, the echoes of war chasing them once more. When they finally stopped, blood soaked his sleeve, but he smiled faintly. "Don't stop now," he whispered. "Freedom's just ahead." The woman looked toward the horizon, her people's land, her spirit's home. She took his hand, guiding him forward. Together they disappeared into the sunrise, 2 forgotten souls carried by the wind. And as the desert swallowed their footprints, their story became legend, proof that even in a land of cruelty, mercy could still bloom. If you felt the power of their fight for freedom, hit that subscribe button, because more untold Wild West stories await your heart.